proper relationship to the divine. From these remarks, we see that those people who receive assistance from divine beings do not need to be good, and that good people do not necessarily receive assistance from such beings. This is because, for the most part, both humans and devas are unawakened and may practice incorrectly. They then cause well-ordered systems in the world to be disturbed and weakened. Following are a few more observations on the subject of a proper relationship to divine beings. First, devas are unable to unilaterally and decisively control human circumstances or to determine the destiny of human beings. Although it is generally understood that devas have superior powers to humans, when humans develop themselves, they are able to equal or surpass the devas, as mentioned earlier. The deciding factor for who is superior lies with an individual's spiritual qualities and effort, which is confirmed by this story in the Jataka tales. Two kings from neighbouring kingdoms were preparing for battle. One of the kings consulted with a rishi who had psychic powers. This rishi was able to converse with Indra, who informed him that the king's army would be victorious. The king therefore heedlessly let his soldiers rest and entertain themselves. The other king, having heard the prediction of his own defeat, redoubled efforts to strengthen his army. In the ensuing battle, the army of the second king gained victory. Indra, who was blamed, then uttered this divine maxim: the perseverance and effort of human beings, the devas are unable to thwart. People often give honor and respect to the divine spirits that dwell in their houses, but from one perspective, these spirits are simply guests. If the owner of the house is very virtuous, for example, he or she is a noble disciple, secure in spiritual qualities, and has progressed from a reliance on faith to steadfast wisdom, the house devas do not have control over the owner, but rather must obey and respect him or her. This is illustrated in the story of the deva who lived in the archway of Anathapindika's house. Anathapindika did not construct a special dwelling for this deva. When Anathapindika lost his wealth, the deva came to him and suggested that he stop giving alms. Anathapindika considered this advice unrighteous and drove the deva away. The deva was unable to find a new residence and thus went to Indra for help. Indra instructed the deva on how to properly ask forgiveness from Anathapindika. On following this instruction, the deva was given permission to return to his original dwelling. The accusations made by devas towards a person should not be taken as ultimate criteria for the person's faults or wrongs. Because there are many examples of devas disparaging good people, the deva mentioned in the story of Anathapindika above was referred to as having wrong view, or as blind and foolish. This deva was unhappy when the Buddha or his disciples visited the house, he would have to descend to the ground. So when Anathapindika became poor, the deva urged him to stop associating with the Buddha, but his plan came to nothing. Some devas, out of mischief, instill a sense of mutual suspicion in people. Some forest devas are unhappy when monks go and live in the forest to practice the Dhamma. Because these virtuous people with superior spiritual qualities have entered their domain, which makes them feel frustrated and inconvenienced. They therefore look for ways to make life uncomfortable for them. Under these circumstances, Buddha recommended that the monks solve this problem by responding with goodness and spreading loving kindness. In the case that devas made proposals and suggested a person act in a particular way, if these requests were deemed inappropriate or unrighteous, the Buddha's disciples, who had a true understanding of his teachings, remained resolute and under no circumstances allowed themselves to be persuaded by these suggestions, regardless of whether the devas threatened them or promised rewards. Third, some devas behave badly. They are hostile and repeatedly impede the spiritual development of human beings. One should not only refrain from soliciting or relying on these devas, but one should outright subdue and conquer them with virtue. If people develop themselves well, they are able to overcome these devas. An important example of this kind of deity is Mara. Mara dwells in Paranimitavasavati, the sixth and highest heaven of the sense sphere. He likes to obstruct and harass others when they perform good deeds, especially when someone tries to free himself from sensuality, kama. In such a case, Mara fears that the person will transcend his domain, and in this case the person must confront Mara to pass beyond. Mara has enormous power. Even Indra flees and hides away at the outskirts of the universe when Mara appears, and Brahma also avoids him. Occasionally Mara goes to disturb the Brahma worlds, which are fine material spheres and higher than Mara's normal realm of existence. The Buddha therefore said, of all powerful beings, Mara is the greatest. Although Mara has such great power, a person who is well trained in moral conduct, concentration and wisdom can conquer him with his virtue. And such a person of supreme spiritual qualities is revered by the devas all the way to the Brahma realms. These words are not meant to encourage a feeling of contempt or insensitivity in regard to divine beings, but rather to increase understanding and help establish a proper relationship to them. The Buddhist relationship to the divine. Based on an understanding of the nature of divine beings and the harm in relating to them improperly, Buddhism teaches to abandon all dependence on and supplication to them, whether in the form of prayer or through coercion. Buddhism teaches a new form of relationship, one of friendship, loving kindness, and mutual respect. We should consider that we are all companions in suffering and in the round of rebirth, and that on the whole humans and devas exist at a high spiritual level. Humans and devas should not disturb or interfere with each other, each make an effort to fulfill their individual responsibilities. This relationship of non-disturbance and non-harm between humans and devas is clearly depicted in the many stories from the scriptures, especially in the Jataka and Dhammapada commentaries. In these stories we see devas assisting human beings, but the nature of and reasons behind this assistance differs from that found in earlier traditions. Here the devas help from their own initiative, prompted by their own sense of goodness. They do not help because people ask, and they neither expect nor desire such entreaty. Those people who receive help act virtuously and judiciously in an ordinary independent fashion. They do not expect to be helped, and they do not seek such assistance. The cause for this assistance is the goodness or good actions of human beings. It is not a result of supplication or a form of reward. In the scriptures, the chief deity who offers such assistance to human beings is Shaka, also known as Indra, king of the Devas. The principle of assistance by Shaka, which conforms to the Buddhist principle of active engagement, Kama, evolved from the principle of divine power espoused by pre-Buddhist religious doctrines. Although this principle is not yet purely in accord with the Buddhist teachings, it has evolved in a distinctly Buddhist direction and has been incorporated into the Buddhist tradition. The core of this principle is that virtuous human beings act based on their own mindfulness and wise judgment in as steady and determined a way as they are able. They do not wait for, expect, or request assistance from divine beings. Virtuous devas are eager to assist good people based on their own sense of virtue. When good people are in trouble, virtuous devas feel compelled to help. Here, human beings behave well without expecting assistance from divine beings, and devas offer assistance without expecting human entreaty. Those people who are still concerned with the principle of divine power can reflect on this saying. The responsibility of human beings is the effort to do good. The responsibility of heaven is to assist good people. Fulfill your responsibility to the best of your ability. If people do not make effort to develop goodness, but are caught up in supplicating the devas, and if the devas are not interested in helping good people, but rather help only those who make entreaties, both parties act irresponsibly. When humans and devas lack virtue and act irresponsibly, they both face ruin according to the law of nature that governs both the human realm and heaven. Here is a concluding passage by the Buddha on this subject of the divine. Abstention from fish and meat. Life as a naked ascetic, shaving of the head. Life as a matted hair ascetic, smearing the body with ashes, wearing rough leopard skins. Fire worship, undertaking religious practices in order to become a god. Ascetic practices of this world. Propitiatory offerings, sacrifices, seasonal sacred observances. None of these things purify a person who has not overcome doubt.